H.R. 7 slashes investments in federal highways by $15.8 billion from current levels over the bill's duration. It does so at a time when our roads and bridges are crumbling before our eyes. This bill will result in 550,000 job losses.
While President Obama has closed off new areas for offshore drilling, this bill will open areas known to contain the most oil and natural gas resources in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Arctic Oceans. I said, in the event, and hopefully it doesn't happen, there were an event like BP again, how quickly could you respond to something like that? Because that's what the issue is. You want to make sure that people respond if there is, in fact, another spill. And in both cases, both of them said they could respond immediately and probably cap it, something like this, in less than 3 weeks.
Yeah. My good friends on the Republican side are always talking about state rights. Always talking about state rights. And your little piece of legislation here strips away the right of California to take care of its own coastline. It's not just authorizing the offshore drilling. You take away California's coastal zone management powers.
And prosperous fishing and tourism industries, real job creators based in Bristol Bay, Southern California, the west coast of Florida, and Virginia will needlessly be placed at risk. And for what? Approximately $1.8 billion in new federal revenue over 10 years. Not nearly enough to fund public transit or any other meaningful part of a transportation infrastructure bill.
While President Obama opposes energy production in ANWR, this bill will open less than 3% of the total area to responsible, safe drilling.
However, including the Arctic refuge drilling provision will greatly complicate the transportation bill moving forward and make agreement with the Senate far more difficult. ANWR should be the last resort, not the first one.
While the President has delayed leases and withdrawn over 1 million acres in the Rocky Mountains to oil shale development, this bill will set clear rules and require additional oil shale leases to be issued.
However, there is no commercially viable oil shale technology, and oil shale developments could have significant impacts on water quality and quantity in the West if there was a commercial viable technology available, which Shell Oil and the Department of Interior says does not yet exist. This is a provision which CBO says raises no revenue in the next 10 years. And in order to find the revenues, you know where they're going to drill? They're going to drill into the pensions of FBI agents. They're going to drill into the pensions of the researchers for cancer out at the National Institutes of Health. They're going to drill into the pensions of the Border Patrol agents down on the Mexican border protecting us right now. That's where they're going to find almost all of the money for this bill, in the pensions of those people.
It eliminates all of the dedicated funding for public transportation, leaving millions of riders already faced with service cuts and fare increases out in the cold.
So think about that. For the people back there that have driven through Chicago, if we were to add an additional 50% on the already congested roads, it would make life far more difficult for moving goods and services around, for getting people to and from work. This is not what we need.
Finally, while the President refused to approve the Keystone XL pipeline, this bill would require the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, to approve it within 30 days.
According to a recent whistleblower who worked as a safety inspector for the first Keystone pipeline, he said, quote, "This oil has the consistency of peanut butter and is similar to sending heavy grit sandpaper down the steel pipe," unquote. Oil tar sands, unlike conventional crude oil, sinks to the bottom of a river, making it especially difficult to clean up. TransCanada's first Keystone pipeline doesn't really inspire confidence either. This is a brand new, supposedly state-of-the-art pipeline. It was predicted to spill no more than once every 7 years. But in just a year and a half of operation, it's reported 14 separate oil spills.
It's time for America to wake up. We need this supply of fossil fuels, and it's going to stay here, not wind, not solar, because fossil fuels are still the cheapest way to move an object. It is the commerce of this nation.